So it's time to open the discussion. It's really time, very good timing actually. So who would like to make any? Oh, Professor Metz, you may start.
I start with a silly question. So my father was an eminent banker. I have no clue what is a yen, how a dollar, how many yen is that? Can you tell me?
There was actually the conversion there on the slide.
Uh,
0.07 euros, right? Is it?
how many yen? How many dollars I get for yen, or how many yen I get for a dollar?
Maybe 1 yen to $1 to 100 yen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. For the lady in the back, and then we'll go to you. Yes, you.
Marie Deneuve, Voisin Consulting. I have a question to Dr. Maurice or anyone in the EU, actually, about the assessment of orphan similarity. And in the slides and in your presentation, you say that it can be done at any time before EC decision is issued. And I was wondering if it's possible to obtain feedback on orphan similarity during the development through scientific advice, and in such case, if it's binding. Thank you.
Dr. Maris?
You can raise a question with regards to orphan similarity when you submit for scientific advice. There's no doubt about that. I think that whether it's binding or not will really, I think that's more linked with the license, to be honest with you, at the time of marketing authorization application, because things can change between the time that you've submitted for your scientific advice question and then the time when you submit for the marketing authorization.
Is it a follow-up question? Because I have, oh, it's a comment on this one. So Dr. Loire, and then.
I think the similarity is in the context of the exclusivity. And you have two parts in this similarity. You have the product or the molecule or whatever. And the other side, you have the indication. So it's a product for a specific indication. And that makes the similarity or not.
The question you had, please.
Hi, Jerry McGettigan from Kinesis Consulting. Again, it's a question for Segundo Mariz, related this time to significant benefit. So if you have an orphan product submitted for an MEA, you said that the significant benefit question is assessed at the initial MEA, but I'm interested to know at what time during the process, and particularly if a company submits new data or new analyses at day 121 or thereafter, or even at an oral explanation for the MEA, will the comp consider those data?
Yeah. Okay. So you're asking whether any additional data that's submitted during the marketing authorization application will be considered within the assessment of significant benefit assessment. I can't see why not. Significant benefit assessment occurs usually around midway after day 150 of the procedure. It depends on what's happening with CHMP, to be honest with you, and the complexity of the questions that have been raised. But yet the data, if you submit additional data, which would support your claims for significant benefit, whether they're based on clinically relevant advantage or a major contribution to patient care, that would be considered in the discussions at COMP, the assessment, yeah.
Actually, any data that you have that can support the assumptions we had at the time of designation should be submitted to a proper evaluation at the time of marketing authorization from the comp. Yes. Yes, please.
Just as a follow-up question, does that mean that the maintenance of orphan report must be amended, or does it go directly through the CHMP to the comp?
Sorry, could you?
Does that mean that
No, the final analysis from the comp will take into consideration the data that the company will submit. So there's no place for amendments. The designation is based on assumptions. The final report will take into account any data that we have received so far. So there's no room for amendments. Did I make myself clear, or were you expecting others? Dr. Fragonese?
Just maybe to clarify this, the comp issues an opinion on the significant benefit after the marketing authorization, because that's not. So this means that usually we accept data from the sponsor until quite late in this process. When the sponsor has submitted a maintenance report, let's say 1 year before, at the time when they submitted the marketing authorization application, of course, in the meantime, there can be new data that have been generated. So this can be sent either as a separate document or as an amended maintenance report. Of course, we don't accept updates the day before the comp, but we are trying to be rather flexible to this, according to what happens also in the CHMP discussions and the type of data that are generated during that one.
I saw a hand on my right. Yes, please.
Jenny Greenhorn, I'm a regulatory consultant, and I hold a orphan designation on behalf of, well, I got it on behalf of a very small American company who are developing a product. They are no longer developing it. They've disappeared off the face of the planet. And this designation is still there. I'm not a development company or anything, but is anyone aware of a forum or can suggest a method by which these type of designations for products could be taken up rather than just ignored? This is a product that has no IP protection, and as far as I'm aware, is not owned by anybody.
Very good question. Dr. Lois?
It's the first time we have this question, so just to explore, if you can identify the owner of the applicant, the owner of the designation, maybe a solution is to organize a transfer to another party interested in the development of this molecule.
Well, because my company owns the designation, I'm wondering whether it's finding some company or some body that's interested in developing the product, both in the US.
I'll give you my telephone number and then.
It's a truly orphan disease.
You can transfer. I don't. I don't know what agreement you had with the now defunct company from the U.S. I think you need to take that into consideration and then look at if the possibility of finding a partner somewhere. And there is always a possibility, if you're the owner of the orphan designation, you can transfer it because you're still a legal entity. But if it had been the company that's defunct and you're working for them, then that would have been a different issue. Yeah. So you can still transfer your designation to somebody, but I don't know what agreement you had with the people who gave you the original designation, who you worked for and got the original designation.
No, it's just a consulting. I'm just wondering whether there's just some forum where these sort of things can be taken up. The stock market, yeah.
Dr. Irene?
I think this is something that we could discuss in the International Rare Diseases Research Consortium, to have kind of a brokerage of designations looking for takers, so to say. So I'm looking at Maria Marvis from Eurordis, who is a member of the Therapies Committee of IRDIRC. Is this something that you think you can bring to the committee to discuss?
Yes, Erin, as you mentioned, we are working on the recommendations at the moment for the Therapy Scientific Committee, so this is certainly something we could consider adding.
Good. Any other questions and comments? Yes, please.
Hi, thank you. Eleanor Davis from Biogen IDEC again. Just a procedural question, really, maybe a quick one from a European perspective. But if there are issues to do with the significant benefit at the end, as the comp are assessing, I understand that the normal one option is to go back to a normal market exclusivity procedure. But just in that situation of a case of appeal proceedings, is there any clarity you can give me about how the appeal procedure works in terms of would that delay the Commission decision coming through? And what happens in that sort of black hole period? I don't understand exactly how that would work, but if any clarification would be helpful.
Yes, I can assure you there is a delay, but I will leave the floor to who wish to. Dr. Agnes Mathieu.
Thank you. So indeed, once the product has a positive opinion from the CHMP and may potentially receive a negative opinion of the COMP, then there is a decision to make. Either we move forward with a normal marketing authorization, so the product comes on the market with a normal marketing authorization, and then the Commission launched the decision-making process. It's very fast. Or you can launch an appeal to the opinion of the COMP, and then you have 90 days to launch the appeal, and so in the Commission, we wait. So it means that the opinion of the CHMP stays on our desk, and we wait the final decision of the COMP. And it's only when we get the final decision of the COM that either it's positive at the end, the COM decide that it's positive, then we grant the marketing authorization as an orphan medicinal product, or the final decision of the COM is negative, and then we move forward with a normal marketing authorization, so non-orphan. But indeed, the appeal procedures increase the time frame for the marketing authorization decision.
Thank you very much for a clear response. Any other questions or comments at this time, please?
Alice Troy, Novo Nordisk. I have a question for the FDA. If we heard we can get scientific advice on similarity in Europe, is there any procedure in the US where the OPD or the review division will give advice on similarity of orphan products in development?
Wishes to take? Dr. Milton?
So you're saying that you have a product that's received orphan drug designation and has gotten orphan drug designation based on a plausible hypothesis of clinical superiority?
I'm saying if there were several products in development all designated and there was concern about similarity, but none of them are yet approved, as the OPD...
First to market would get their exclusivity, and then the follow-on products would have to prove clinical superiority to that product in order to come to market during the exclusivity period for the first product.
I don't think you understand my question. I was wondering, is there can you ask the OPD, do you think we are similar to this other product in development? Like you can ask EMEA. Do you discuss similarity of products that are designated or only when products are marketed?
We don't discuss similarity when they're designated if there's not one on the market. There has to be one on the market.
Okay, thank you. That's the answer.
As that's your index drug. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that's clear.
Thank you. Time for one more question. Oh, sorry. Dr. Friers, you had something to say.
Yes, thank you. Actually, I was very impressed with the range of state interventions that were presented by the different regions, and especially because not only do they top up all the legal regulatory incentives, but they have an added benefit that they can actually drive research where maybe companies might not wish to invest. So I think that's a very important element, I think, to emphasize. Still, overall, both the legal and the grant incentives that were discussed today, they all target rich ICH countries, if I can say so, in which actually currently the questions are being raised about affordability as well. I was wondering, to address my question to Irene, Erika, and Hirofumi, if there would be a benefit to reach out actually in the area of orphans with an even more philanthropic perspective and maybe reinforce, for example, connections with recognized bodies like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and maybe whether you have done so or...
Irene and Erika?
Coming back, so first, the EU, as EU funding, I mean, as you know, we're already investing quite a lot in rare diseases, and we will continue to do so. We have moved more and more into funding clinical trials that we historically did not do, but over the last 5-year period, we have moved much further on that. To apply, it could be academics, or it can also be companies. We focus a lot of our efforts on small companies, but also big companies are welcome to apply. In terms of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, I think that would be in the context of IRDIRC. We have not discussed specifically with them for time being. We did ask at the startup, we actually asked them, but we never really had a response for them, but that may have been due to change in management of the foundation, etc. I know there are participating in another big initiative we have, which is called EDCTP, European and Developing Countries Clinical Trials Partnership, which is specifically focusing on a partnership with Sub-Saharan Africa to develop treatments for malaria, HIV, and TB. And in that partnership, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation are very active and participate. I know there are discussions going on with other foundations for that particular areas. For rare diseases, we haven't come that far. As you have seen, we're already 40 partners, and I mean, anybody is welcome to come. So if you have any connections with them, you're happy to forward the word.
Certainly, our grant program is for academia and industry, and with the $14 million per year is our funding. So.
For me?
And you will welcome all companies who get the Orphan designation from the Japanese Minister of MHLW.
Thank you very much. One last question.
Hi, apologies if this was covered earlier. Just with the discussion we've just had. My name's Kerry Lowe from GSK.
To just pull the microphone into you so that, yes, forwards you, yeah.
Probably use that one instead. Is that better? Yes, sorry, GSK, Kerry Lowe. Just thinking about the conversation we just had up at significant benefit. You just remind me, in Europe, the significant benefit must be demonstrated. Is it only against other orphan designated drugs or against any drug for the same indication? And would that include standard of care that may not have a drug approved? It is. I see lots of nods.
Yeah,
thanks, Segundo. Thank
you.
you.
What you want to do is you want to establish either a clinically relevant advantage or a major contribution to patient care within the context of the standard of care. And within that context, you have authorized products in Europe, and that's why we ask in Section D1 the authorized products, so that we can establish what the additional value, if you want, is of your product within the context of a clinically relevant advantage or major contribution to patient care. Okay.